everybody here is an incredible casting director. I'm like honored to be here presenting this because I love all of you guys and all of your work. Would you each just take a second to introduce yourselves, tell us about the project that you're nominated for, how you got into casting? Yeah, we'll start with Hamzah. We'll work this way.
Me? Okay. My name is Hamzah Saman. So we doing like how we doing this?
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about the project that you're
me first
nominated
and then
for.
the
Yeah,
project?
whatever order you want to do it in. Things I want to hit are how did you get into casting and then the project.
No problem. We can do that. Why me first? All right.
Because that's the order they gave me.
All right. All right. Good. Okay. My name is Hamzah, and I'm actually a member of the union, which is I love being here. And I was here last week teaching, so that's another. I love being here again. It's my favorite thing. Oh, by the way, I was here years ago because when I became a member of the union, I used to come here all the time, but it was downstairs, and they were casting director, and there were like a few ladies, and I think April Winster was doing there, and I was just like shocked. Like I've never seen casting director in my life, like in front of me. I've seen like
Were these
I've never
mysterious
seen
figures?
them. So I was so excited, and then like, they were talking how they got in casting, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I think I can do that, But that's not how I get into casting. I got into casting. I was on Argo. I was working there, and then people were asking me like, how did you get into acting? How you get into SAG? And then I realized there was nothing available for Arab actors, a Middle Eastern actor, Mensa actor. It wasn't even available. It wasn't a thing. And then I opened a Facebook group, and the rest is history. That was in 2011 in November. And now we have Arab American casting at and ArabActors.com and MiddleEasternActor.com. So it's like all in one platform. We have almost 11,000 members, all free join.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's my baby because like when I put casting call out there, it just turned out really fast, and people trust me and I trust them, and it just it's amazing platform, and yeah.
Awesome. And then what are you nominated for? Tell us about the film that you.
I'm my co-casting director is Cara Sullivan, and I'm the second casting there, so we both together. For Exception, the film is about a Palestinian American Palestinian American professor who has a lecture, was linked out on social media, and then he has a problem with the lecture. He's lost his job, and he's losing his daughter, and all that for speaking out for for Palestinian right and racism against Palestinian. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's weird. I feel like I don't want to say I'm excited to hear more about that one and like watch it because it's like it feels weird to be positive about that.
The amazing thing about this film, Carl and I, I think she's from Israel or Jewish, and I'm Lebanese, and so we both nominate together. I think that's a gift. It's a great a message from God. And we both like each other. We work together, and I like a lot of people. So my new film is we're doing right now it's called Shalom Salam. We're still casting it, and my other casting director is Israeli, and the other casting director is in Israel. I both got him in, so she won one local and one here to do the Israeli part, and I'm doing the Arabic part. So this is true. It's not like peacemaking. That's who we are. We live together.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sunday, what about you? How did you get into casting, and what project are you nominated for?
So my name is Sunday, but I go by Sunny, Boling Kennedy. That's my full name. And I started in casting at 20th Century Fox. I interned there when I was in college. Casting was not the plan, but I moved here with $800 and 2 suitcases. I wanted to stay. So when I was offered a job, I took the job. And I've now had my company, Mormon Bowling Casting, for 21 years. Felt very old saying that. With my business partner, Meg Mormon, who I met at Fox. She's one of the first people I ever met in Los Angeles. Her desk faced me, so she looked at me all the time, and friendship bloomed.
Trauma bonding is a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. So that's the quick story of how I got into casting. The film that I'm nominated for is called The Cockroach. It's a beautiful story of a woman who has lost her arm in a tragic car accident and is trying to re-find herself as a mother, a wife, as a person, now that she's differently limbed.
Tanya.
Yes. Hi. The Cliff Notes version of how I got into casting was by accident in a Facebook post. I had been working as an on-set photographer for about a year and also doing like headshots and weddings, and I was just kind of tired of the hustle. And then so I thought I was getting a steady office job. So I was like, I would like an office job in entertainment. And a friend of a friend was looking for a casting intern, which is not steady at all. But that was like 14 years ago. And I got referred and kept going and no longer do photography except for fun. The film that I am nominated for is Before the Winter. It was a Chapman thesis film and just such a beautiful story. But it revolves around this young girl, the daughter of a Chinese immigrant mother who's struggling, taking care of a sick father. And there's a secret that she is holding about some grief and home troubles. It is now available as of today on Ombletto. So that's exciting for a short film to get
Awesome.
seen. So
Congrats. That's huge. Marin.
Hi, I'm Marin.
Marin. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Marin, like the county. Hope. I started casting in New York, even though I'm an LA native, at ABC Primetime casting under Marcy Phillips there, and then bounced around to different casting offices. I started because I was at an acting conservatory in New York, and at this conservatory, you were just assigned roles in plays. You didn't audition, and they would post them in the lobby of the conservatory. And I was fascinated by how my peers were cast, which was probably a good indication that maybe casting was the place I was supposed to be and not acting. So yeah, I bounced around to different offices in New York with Judy Henderson, worked on Homeland with her, and then moved over to Christie Street casting with Jessica Kelly and Suzanne Smith Crowley and Billy Hopkins, and really learned what casting was and learned about it like as an art form, and fell in love, and eventually moved back to Los Angeles and started working with Heidi Levitt here and opened my own casting office. What feels like a lifetime ago, but in 2014, which also makes me feel old. And I am nominated for a film called Teen Mary, which is a very different tone than the last three films. It's a Mel Brooks-inspired biblical parody, which reimagines the story of the Mother Mary, and in this case, her gay best friend, Joseph, who have to hatch a plan in order to avoid being stoned to death for premarital sex and homosexuality. I will say, at the well, we all know what the rest of that story is, I think. I will say that at the end of the film, spoiler, I know, Mary does, in fact, give birth to a divine, glowing baby Jesus. And so at its core, the film is a playful reflection that embraces this idea that God loves all of his children, regardless of their sexual identities.
And Allie.
What a novel idea. Oh, I'm Allie Beans. Hi, everyone. How did I get into casting? So my story's a little bit different, and not to out myself as the youngest person here, I also feel very old, but I actually knew when I was a teenager that I wanted to be a casting director, and I'm kind of the first generation, I feel like, of people who came up in our industry knowing it was a job and a thing. And I feel like I was mentored and taught by and worked for so many casting directors who fell into it through something else, like many of you. And obviously have learned, so much from that. But I actually, I decided I wanted to be a casting director the first time I met a casting director, which was Eric Woodall when he was at Tara Rubin's office. And now he's an artistic director of a theater. I don't know. Maybe he still is. I don't know. But I definitely credit my career to him in so many ways, for coming to my university when we did our senior showcase. I wasn't a senior yet, but I was like, I'm into this casting thing. And he sat down with me at a Starbucks in the middle of nowhere in West Texas for 2 hours and let me pick his brain. And at the end of that conversation, I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I pursued it ever since, my degree is in musical theater, like so many of us. But I knew when I graduated, I was pursuing casting. So I did the Tepper semester, which is a program sponsored by CSA in New York. And I was mentored by Pat McCorkle. Then I went on to work for a lot of different people, Judy Henderson included. Did a little stint on Homeland. Now I find myself, I'm based in Texas now, through so many weird life events. And that's where I find myself now. But my clients are still in New York. I have a lot here. And randomly, I have 3 very, very beloved clients in Canada that I work with. I am nominated for a short film called Adieu. It is a very lighthearted story about a middle school theater rehearsal of Much Ado About Nothing that gets interrupted by a school shooter. So it is one of the, I hate like ranking things. It's one of the best projects I've ever worked on though. And part of that is because the writer director and I met when I cast him as an actor a number of years ago in a theater production. And then we became friends. He's also a professor at Baylor, so he would bring me in to do workshops with his students and whatnot. So we built this friendship, and then he reached out to me to cast his short, and I was like, I'd be honored, and rest is kind of history.
Well, that leads so perfectly into my next question, which is, can you tell me a little bit about how you get involved in a short film? I think a lot of people don't really understand what the short film world is, how it's different than the feature film world. When does a casting director come on a short film? It sounds like everybody here, the films you're working on are all very specific. You're looking for very specific things. So just tell me a little bit about when you got approached and how you came on to the film and what it looked like to shape these really specific stories and casts that it seems like all of these films have. Whoever wants to start, we don't have to go in a specific order.
Excuse me. My story is my director, Mary Pat Bentel, is a good friend, and I've known her as a producer. This was her first time directing for years and years and years. And I was actually climbing into my attic to get something, and I was standing on the ladder, and I was like, oh, I wonder how Mary Pat's doing, because the last time I'd seen her, she had fallen and broken her arm when she was in her attic. And so I was like, I haven't seen her in a minute. And so I just emailed her and said, I was in my attic and I was thinking of you. I hope you're good. And she, like 2 weeks later, she's like, I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you. I actually had another accident and she'd fallen and broken her leg, not from the attic, at the airport, strangely enough. And she said, I would love to get together. I have a project. And so we got coffee. She's in a full leg cast. And the last time I'd seen her, her arm was in a cast and she'd had to have multiple operations. And she said, I am so grateful you reached out, because in my processing of my accident, and she also, when she fell and hurt her arm, her daughter was a toddler and she couldn't hold her. She couldn't pick her up. She was really limited. And she said, but I've been dealing with the changes that these accidents have brought into my life by writing a story. And so she told me a little bit about the script. And while she didn't lose her arm, she lost function and it will never be 100%. And so she got very emotional. We're at coffee. And strangely enough, friends are shooting a film literally next door that I didn't know. Just accidentally, there's Michael Keaton walking by. And my friend, the producer's walking by. I was like, what a weird world we're in. And she's like, I was like, what can I do? And she's like, will you cast it? I'm like, of course. And so it really came about because I had this moment of thinking about her. And she had started a little bit looking for someone who was differently limbed. But it's an overwhelming process when you want something and you want something so specific. And her story, while it isn't about herself, it was so personal because it was her healing journey. And so that's how it kind of came to me.
Okay.
I want you to talk.
So I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of short films. In particular, I did a lot of thesis films during the writer and actor strike because those contracts were not under strict. Yes, that.
I got the waiver, I think.
Yeah. In a lot of the school settings, a lot of them are encouraging student filmmakers to work with casting directors to kind of mimic real world situations, to learn how to work with a department head that isn't a fellow student, that isn't someone that you've come up with, but is a working professional. So it was, being brought on for both creative help and then also kind of the educational aspect was really nice. And then I would say the other half of the short films I work on usually are like proof of concepts. And so they're, the filmmakers are hoping maybe if I get a splashy enough name, then this will, drive funding for a feature, or, because I'm from a marginalized community, it is a lot of times I really need someone specific. And these filmmakers just don't have access to the talent pools that we do or access to agents and managers. So a lot of times that's kind of where it comes about, or sometimes they try it on their own and realize not all my friends are actors. Let me get a professional. So, yeah.
I was going to say, just in the broader sense, and I'd be curious if this is the same for all of you, the number one question I have gotten asked by interns and assistants under me in every single office I've ever worked in, including my own, is how do you get work? Number one question. But it's so hard to answer because I feel like it's so organic, which is also weird to say, but it just is. It's students, it's people I meet that were actors that are also filmmakers, friends I meet at film festivals, friends I meet through other friends who aren't in this industry at all. I don't think there's a clear-cut answer.
I would love to echo that. I mean, especially when you're starting out, working with students is a great way to start to build your career. And if you really believe in the creative vision of that up and coming, hopefully, director, that could lead to more work for you as well. So it's, you're trusting the filmmaker that you work with. I had the opportunity to work on Teen Mary because I was teaching at the American Film Institute. I was teaching a casting workshop to second-year directing fellows, and I came in on the first day. I'd cast a ton of AFI films prior to Teen Mary, and I told myself before this class, I'm not casting a single student's film because it's really challenging to cast any short film because there's usually not a lot of money. It's hard to attach talent. Student films can be even trickier because here you have a first-time filmmaker. They're a student. There's no money at the AFI in particular. It's usually a deferred payment structure. And I know how difficult it is to cast a film. And so I told the students that on the first day, I said, don't ask me to cast your theses because I'm not going to do it. And one of my students, Allie Rosenthal, emailed me and said, hey, I know you said you're not going to cast any of our films. I would love to take you to coffee and just ask you a few questions about the casting process. So I agreed. And then she pitched me the film in the most brilliant way. And I told her I would cast it right then and there. And so that's how I ended up doing this project. And I'm so happy I did, even though there were 25 plus roles. It was like casting a feature film. And, all deferred pay.
Faces just dropped.
It was absolutely insane. And after that, I said, and now I'm never casting an AFI film.
I was so on board until you said that.
25 roles is crazy.
No.
Like,
Yeah, when it's good, it's good. She sounds like an elite Allie.
I cast a lot of short film, because they looking for Arabic actors or Middle Eastern actors, so they kind of come to me, and I'm like, you're strapped now. Pay me and pay everybody. But it's been great because of the website. Sometime because I own it, so I post it and get my people, and then I have my short list. But on this project is interesting because. So I was at Disneyland for 2 days, and with my kid. My kid was like my 10-year-old was like 2 years ago, so he was like 8. My daughter was like 6 because she's 7. And I don't go to Disneyland with my wife a lot. Like especially that's my first time with the California Adventure, and I don't like rides too much. I do like it when I close my eyes and I pretend like I don't.
You're not a rides person.
Trust me,
California
we're going-
Adventure
we're-
is
we're gonna
specifically
get
not the
there.
one to go to.
I didn't want to tell this story, but because it takes forever. But I'm going to tell it really fast, and hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying. But I was there with I forget to charge my phone when I go to sleep because I'm watching it. So, so I wake up in the morning. I get in and I get the coffee. Go we get the kids and everything. I get in the line, and I get the producer calling me, right? And then I know the producer, and then kind of told him to text me because I'm out. Like, no, call me. I need to talk to you. And then 2 people start calling me. So I pick up the phone. We start talking. They want me to cast immediately. I'm like, so I explained to them, I'm at Disneyland with my kid and my wife, and we haven't been on vacation for a long time. And my phone is 30%, and my charger, the plug thing wasn't working.
Oh no.
So we waiting in line where that thing that I think that thing that fall down.
Guardians of Galaxy.
Yeah, I fall down like
I've been a few
Tower of
times.
I
Terror.
had a heart attack. 'Cause I
Old Tower of Terror.
was really like texting and going in and doing all this stuff, and I'm posting because they already paid everything. They we want to work, we want kids, we want people to speak Arabic, and I literally walked in that thing. I sat down and I fall down. I have a picture on my phone. I fall down and I keep falling and I keep falling. I keep screaming, and I came out. When the door opened, I see the lady looked at me like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm looking to make sure my kid's still alive, and they're like looking at me, "What is wrong with you?" This is the dad we got, and so I didn't know because my phone, I was looking down the whole time, and 2 hour waiting in line. I'm telling you, that's the best thing if you want to do casting, go online, wait online. You will
When you have other plans, suddenly everybody needs
Yeah,
you
yes,
and needs
Go
you to do
in.
something immediately.
But this I started there, and that's how I started this film, and I knew it was meaningful, and that's how casting. That's how we get, I guess, these things, out of nowhere. Just
I haven't gotten one at Disneyland yet, but I seem to be going to Disneyland way more often than I wanted to ever. So who knows?
Yeah.
I have that to look forward to maybe while I'm waiting for Little Mermaid.
I want to add one thing. It's casting. Honestly, is fate. Like it's literally like I feel like we're a messenger between you and the director, and it just fate. Sometimes it just works out. Like it's perfect. Like it's perfect. You turn it right, and it worked out.
It feels like you all, at least in terms of these films that we're talking about today, everybody, it was a fate thing. There was a way in for each of you that felt personal, that felt like something that got you really excited. So what is something, especially for a short film, that you look for when you get offered a project? Especially since, as we said, there's usually no money in short films and it can suddenly have 25 roles. What is something that you look for that brings you into a project that makes you say, I want to cast this short, which is hard?
I'm really particular. I would say I don't do a lot of short films. Even in the beginning, it's just not been my core, like my path exactly. I have done some. Also, I've taught at AFI, and you get bombarded, and then you feel like you got to do it. You feel guilty. But I am really picky because short films are hard. They're very hard, and they always take almost as much time as doing anything else. I've done ones about child soldiers, tough topics. And so for me, the story has to be great. It has to be something that for me is worth telling, that is meaningful, and that the actors get to do something. It's not just a director's vision that's going to look beautiful and the cinematographer gets all the credit, which is fine. Those films, I love those films, but I don't want to cast them. I want it to be something meaningful, and also that we have the time to do it right. I'm not going to take a 25-roll film if they're like, and we need it in 3 weeks. That's not going to be me, because I'm really particular. I'm picky. And I want to do it right. I want to do it as best I can with the time that we have. And that way, then it's a product that hopefully is something that does have a life, that it actually goes and it plays at film festivals. Maybe it's the thing that launches the feature or the TV show or something like that. I have a feature now called American Soil that we're working on, that the director, who also was a producer on many things and wanted to direct, and so he wrote proof of concept short. The script was awesome, and I was like, well, I can definitely cast this. Great. I already knew I could put someone in this, whatever. And and that launched, played at a bunch of film festivals and helped him raise his money. It was very purposeful, but we always knew it would be a feature. It was never going to just be this short film. But it has to be moving, so that then you don't, sometimes people are like, hey, will you cast this? We've got $1,500 and we need 2 kids and a blind man and a thing. And you're like, oh my gosh. Like, every student film is written where there's a 5-year-old child that talks like they're 70 and they want some famous person to be grandpa for 20 seconds. They're all written for not casting. The other day, someone asked me, like, and do you do dogs? I'm like, no, I don't do dogs. But they're hard. And so for me, it's like, then I have to feel like my work is meaningful, particularly with that. The same for me goes with low budget feature films. If this is a $300,000 budget, which again is not my mainstay, but if I'm going to do it, I got to love it. And I have to believe in the filmmakers. Like with AFI, any of the student films, I watch the director's work. I watch the producer's work. If they've never done anything, it's not for me. It's just not my fit. I want to know it's a filmmaker I can trust, that I'm sending my actors to a set, that they're going to be treated well, and they're going to make something great. And I've really felt that way since the beginning. My first short I ever cast on my own, sitting on my bed, literally making all calls on offers. Ron Perlman is the male in my film. And, because I believed in it. And so for me, that's just been my guiding principle.
I mean, I would say I, early on in my career, struggled to be as picky as I should.
Hard, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone probably in this room feels like if you say no to a job, what if another job never
I made some
shows up?
mistakes.
Yeah. Or like if it's a friend of a friend, or like a friend's like, can you help me? And I'm like, of course, yay. And then I get 25 characters and I'm like, no. Because I think what a lot of people forget when they're hiring casting directors is that, yes, the short film might be short in of itself, but the casting process might last the exact same amount of time. If I'm casting a feature, a pilot as a short film, is the same amount of time to break down the script, to do the auditions, to release the breakdowns and what have you. Maybe less time negotiating with a lawyer. Yeah. And so for me now, I really am trying to be more cognizant about not only is the script powerful, but is this a filmmaker that I want to collaborate with, not just for this project, but for the future? Because a lot of, for me, short films is about making these connections that hopefully continue beyond this one project. And then also just being cognizant of the fact that a lot of the times on these short projects, my name, any of our names, is the one that has the most experience. We're the one kind of validating this project for agents, for actors. So we want to make sure, like, I want to make sure the actors are going to get taken care of, both safety and creatively and what have you. So I'm just trying to be a little bit more particular now when I say yes to a short film.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I know. Those are amazing because I also started doing student films when I was a casting assistant. That's how I started to make my name for myself of like, I do this by myself. And it's hard, especially when you only have a 5 to 8 page script or something like that, to really know what a character is going to be. So when you guys read scripts, how do you approach a short film script? Do you approach it the same way as a feature script where I don't know, for me, it's when I read a feature script, I have to start picturing actors in like specific people in these roles. Otherwise, there's no point in saying yes to this if it's going to be a struggle to think of people. But it's harder to do that when you only have a few pages with somebody. So how do you guys find your way in to a smaller project like this?
I approach it the same way as I do a feature. Now, I'm different up here in the sense that the majority of my work is indie film, specifically low budget indie film. That is the niche I carved for myself. It is the bed I made, and damn it, I sleep in it. Okay. So, and I love it. I do.
Good bed. It's a good bed.
It's a good bed, and I am picky. However, I have to approach it the same. And I don't know, it's a whole strategy with casting is, okay, well, the reason I might get an amazing actor to play this character, even for 5 pages, that's in a short, is because maybe this character hasn't existed in a feature yet for them. So I don't know, I have to think about it the same.
You have to be creative about how, especially I do a lot of indie $2 to $3 million low budget indie films, even lower than that.
How low can you go?
I'm doing a $300,000 one right now. It felt kind of targeted when you pulled that number out.
Same.
I'm not saying I don't. I have one that's out there right now. It's called A Simple Machine. It's been winning film festivals. It's a beautiful story, black and white.
And you found
but it was
a strong way into it.
Yes.
I assume there was something about it that
I
that there
read
was a
it.
strong point
I
of
read
view.
the email and I was like, oof, I don't know about this one. And because they were very upfront. This is how much money we have. This is what it is. Da-da. And I was like, okay. I read the script and I was like, I'm in. I was like, let's meet, because I like to make sure they're not crazy. But I was already in my heart. I was like, I'm gonna do it.
What was it that made you feel that way about any? Maybe not even that specific project, about the projects that you guys have that made you feel like I can't say no to this.
For me, and I also approach short films very similar to feature casting, like, because if the writing is good, I see it. Mm-hmm. I see these people. I understand the environment. I do a lot of research too. Like if it's set in a place I don't really know, then I love looking it up and finding out what that's like. And if it's set in a time period, then, I'm not familiar. I like to look things up. And I think, like with A Simple Machine, it's this incredibly relevant story of a guy who has crushing debt and realizes he has to part with his debt, and he gives up everything and he starts riding a bike. It's shot in Portland, which very bike friendly city. And the director and his wife, they actually to save money at one point. They're both in entertainment, but they lived out of a van basically. So it was very relatable for them. And it was something where he is on a mission and he's starting to get rid of everything in his life in order to just free himself from that. And so it's this really beautiful, and he ends up a lot, friendships, things are sacrificed along the way because he makes this such a priority in his life. But so it was something where it was very relatable for me in that respect also. Like, also growing up with very little, like just to see a person who is really having to make ends meet in that way, like it's very realistic and it felt very relatable. And I think it's a story, to me, crushing debt is something that is a terrible disease in our country. And so that's meaningful, and the short for me was meaningful because also I think, sometimes we face something that's really changes our life in such a way that it seems like there's no way back in, and that our identity is now gone. And so the idea of then refinding that, or finding the newness of yourself and celebrating it and finding joy in that, I find is really meaningful, you know? And so if it's something, now sometimes I read a script and I'm like, this is a very important story. It's not for me. You know, sometimes I passed on something recently and I was like, it's really great. It's just not my story.
Right.
It's not something I feel passionate about. Yeah, I would rather someone else do it. I don't care about it enough. And so, you know, so sometimes it's more about just what is it that's speaking to me specifically in that moment.
Yeah, I was going to actually add my experience with short films in particular is the exact opposite of what you guys have mentioned about reading scripts and being able to see somebody. Because a lot of times for me in the projects that have come to me, these are characters that do not have an existing talent pool. They are maybe 2 or 3. If I'm looking for an older Chinese man who can speak the specific either Mandarin or Cantonese dialect, there's not that many that is going to be recognizable to American public. There's not that many 11-year-old Chinese girls or Vietnamese girls or Southeast Asian kids that are going to be able to carry a film. There's not a lot of transgender men that immediately would take I was like, yes, the supporting role, perfect. Like, there's just not a lot. So for me, short films are my path to discovery for a lot of actors. And it's a lot of times one of their first either American project or just like first semi-professional credit to get actors to have more visibility just because we are trying to branch out. Like you know, a lot of times my conversation with the creatives are like, okay, there's one Simu Liu. We need more. So you don't have to chase a name for a short film. Like, you can be using this to get the next Michael B. Jordan and what have you.
So that leads perfectly, unless either of you have an addition. Yeah.
For me, it's a short film. It's my community, as an Arab American community, I think that's all they can afford. Unfortunately, they trying to do feature.
Well, yeah, getting a budget for a movie is hard.
We're doing a lot of pilots, you know, but we trying, you know, we trying. It's the Arab American community versus the Arab community. You know, the Arab in the world there, they have billions, and we don't have billions. You know, it is what it is. So I think it's just the community trying really hard to tell the stories.
Yeah. And a lot of these projects, I mean, back to your initial question about seeing the characters, right? A lot of these projects, short films in particular, will come with a really involved deck that really, in addition to the tone and style of the film, it's really outlining the characters in great detail. And of course, just like a feature film, you're having creative discussions with your filmmaker about who these characters are and what me as a casting director is going to look for. And usually those conversations happen before we agree to come on to a film. And so if their creative vision and sort of my creative vision and reading the script are not aligned, usually the project is not going to be for me. And also, if I feel like I don't think I can cast this, I'm not going to come onto a project that, you know, I can't fulfill what this director has in mind for their characters. And so all of these things are being weighed in this initial sort of interview process. The filmmaker is interviewing me. Usually on a short film, it's not so much of an interview. They're like, please cast it. But I'm also interviewing them, right? We want to make sure that it's going to be
a true collaboration.
A true collaboration, and also something that can be executed in the way that they hope it will be.
So for everybody then, going off of, because I feel like we all kind of touched on this a little bit, do you prefer when you get, for a short film specifically, when you get a really specific deck, when the filmmakers have a really specific vision for a role, or do you like coming to it with a broader perspective where you can help them shape, you can say, these are the people that and if you have a strong opinion on one of those sides, which one?
For me personally, there's nothing more frustrating than working with a director that is so married to an unattainable idea of who this character is. Filmmakers, I feel like, need to have a little bit of flexibility in the casting room. And we've all worked with directors who have a very precise vision of who this character is, and that can be a really great thing, but it also can be limiting. And so, especially with first-time filmmakers, which are oftentimes the directors that are directing these short films, I encourage them to be more flexible in the casting process, or at least just open their mind to possibilities. And sometimes there's more room for that than others, and it depends on the project and who these characters are. But I find it beneficial when a filmmaker can do that and really think outside of the box of how they've seen this character for a long time without losing that vision.
Yeah.
I would say for me, I prefer having a really beautiful outlined deck and all of the bells and whistles when it's somebody who's new to me as a client. I gotta be honest, I have a number of clients that I've worked with for years and years and years that if they came with me with concepts of a plan,
Great quote.
I have a few clients that if they did, I'd be like, let's do it. Because I trust them. Like there's a relationship
But they
there.
didn't come to you that way originally.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. But
Build
like we have that relationship now that, if they came to me and they're like, wild idea, let's make this short. I'd be like, yeah, man, let's go. Like that's, I love doing that. But if you're a new client to me, it's what Sunny said. Like I gotta vet you so that we can get to there.
I appreciate a deck that is like vibes and not like an instruction manual.
100%.
And I can always tell like when they are looking at a character and they're like different pictures and some of them are actors and some of them are characters from like older films or TV shows. And I was like, okay, this filmmaker understands this character, is specific enough to have these kind of like inspirations, but feels open enough to collaborate. When I'm looking at a deck and it's like one actor per role, and I was like, I can't get you this person, not on your budget, or it's like they insist on curly hair, and I'm like, that's what hair and makeup's for. You don't have to say no to a straight hair person,
Right?
It's a curling art, or a deck that looks like you said, a deck that looks elementary. Because I'm also looking at it like, okay, let's say you sell me on the concept, you sell me as a person, but I still have to take this deck with an offer to somebody. And so I'm like, how's an agent going to respond to this? How's an actor going to respond to this? If it feels amateurish, because here's the thing, you could be a first-time filmmaker and not be an amateur.
Sure.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, your deck better look really good.
Especially for short films. It's hard. So how often do you find that you are casting actors who fit exactly what you discussed in your first meeting, the concepts, versus finding someone new and potentially different that brings something different to the film? How often do you find that you're casting either that exactly what they're looking for, or able to find it's not exactly what you're looking for, but here's what you were looking for in a different package?
And I think with short films, I totally agree with what everyone's saying in terms of the flexibility and having to keep somewhat of an open mind. A lot of times, particularly with student films or first-time directors, the story is something very personal to them. My favorite element of casting, also with features, this happens too. A lot of times, first-time directors, their lead character, they really see as another version of themselves. And so when you're doing all the auditioning and stuff, it's just funny. Like a lot of times they'll pick someone. It's like, yeah, that kind of looks like you. Even if it's like a 10-year-old, to be like, okay, you're blonde, blue eyes.
Or I've heard, well, I wouldn't have said it that way, and you're like, it's not actually.
It's not you. It's not you. But it's funny how that sometimes that plays out quite often, for first time. But with a short, it's rare that you're going to have someone very famous in it unless there are a lot of outstanding things. This is for Hello Sunshine, and we actually have a budget and whatever, or it's a student film that is not AFI because they have a lot of restrictions on how much money they can raise. But sometimes, there's students who have really famous parents, I did one with someone whose parents are both very, very famous. They have a lot of famous friends. This was a long time ago. It was very easy to ask people to do it because it's like, well, this is who's in it. Oh, okay. So there's a lot of outstanding circumstances, but for a lot of short films that come with a limited budget and director is brand new, there's a lot of restrictions on what you can do. And so you have to be creative and you try and do your best to bring this vision to life as discussed. But there's many times too where I'll be auditioning people and then you go, this is not working. I don't love what's happening here. And so then I'm like, who else could I bring in that makes sense for this part? And then you go, I know this is what you said, but I've got a couple other options I'd love to show you that I think would be great. And, if you sell it right, you have a good enough relationship with the team, sometimes you can get them to change their minds or just to be open to something different. Because also for me in the deck, when it's like a string of really famous people and it's like, and it's a Chapman thesis, you're like, well, we're not getting any of these guys, but, and not the tear down. We're going to have to start from scratch. But I do like having some semblance when someone goes, oh, it's like a young Kyle MacLachlan. I'm like, got it. I know exactly what that is. Great. And it doesn't mean it looks like a young, right? If you're in casting, we know what that means, the essence, right? So sometimes those things I'll say, if we could have anybody in the world, if they really are not able to tell me much about the character, who would it be? If we could have anybody, dead or alive, I don't care. Just give me someone. And then that at least gives me a sense of how they envision it. Even if that's not where we're going to land, it's a great starting point.
I find with short films in particular, especially because it's so rare to be able to fly actors in from elsewhere. So a lot of the scripts I've worked on, it's hard to deviate because it's telling a very specific type of story. But so then it becomes, okay, what can we compromise on that doesn't destroy the integrity of the story? So say it is for example, a father-son. What's more important, the language being spoken or the father-son relationship? If it's language, then I might go back to my director and be like, are you open to seeing women and having it be a father or a mother? Same thing with the son. Does it have to be a son or can it also be a girl? And if it is that specific dynamic, no, it has to be father or son, then I'm like, well, maybe let's dial back on the language then. Let me show you some options of people who can't speak this particular language. And, as filmmakers, especially in short film, and especially you gotta, I had somebody that was like, I need someone who can skateboard, speak this specific language, be a minor, and they have to be in Tucson. And I'm like, what? This is
and
not
also
the
it's
script for
scale.
me.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it was, it's low budget
Deferred.
scale.
Yeah.
A deferred payment.
Deferred.
And
Yeah.
they're going to shave their head.
So,
I've actually had that one come up and they'll shave their head. I was like, nah, that's not it.
Nice. And okay, so in terms for the purposes of this panel, since we are at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation and it's actors coming to hear casting, what do you think is the benefit for actors in short films? Where, I think when people think I want to be an actor, they think I'm going to be in a big blockbuster movie. I'm going to see my thing in Times Square. And that's not what short films are. So from a casting perspective, what do you think is the benefit for actors of being in short films?
The same benefit that it is for us. You don't know where it's going to go. You don't know what this filmmaker is going to do. You don't know. Part of the reason I continue to do short films is they can have a lot of mileage if it's done correctly. And that's part of why I continue to do them. I say yes because this is realistically one of the best ways Allie Beans, can contribute to diversifying our industry, is helping young up-and-coming filmmakers or filmmakers with little to no resources elevate their project with my casting, the same goes for actors. You want that amazing student who's working on their thesis to call you when they sign their Netflix deal, and they'll remember that you did their short. They'll remember that I cast it. I think that's
the dream. If they will remember casting.
Remember game.
Yes.
I've been doing it a long time, and I'll tell you that doesn't always happen. But I agree in the sense that great working with aspiring and newer filmmakers. But to me, the most important thing for an actor is these are roles you don't get to do anywhere else. You will not do this in a feature film. You don't get to necessarily be the lead of a huge movie. Yet if you carry a short film and you do it great, even if this short doesn't win every award, play at all the film festivals, you have the credit and you have something for your reel that's amazing that you're not going to get anywhere else. And a number of the shorts that I've worked on, the roles, especially lead and sometimes a really great cameo supporting role, is significant. It's cool. It's meaty. It's important. You get to be all the different things. And if you're normally getting to only doing comedy and it's like, oh, I finally get to do this dramatic turn. I was thinking that, I don't know if anyone saw that indie film, Familiar Touch. Mm-hmm. And now I'm blanking on his name, but the son in that movie is mostly a comedic voice actor. It is the most, why she didn't win the Independent Spirit Award is a loss to society. That movie is stunning acting, stunning. But it's, in that role, I'm sure he was like, this is a dream. No one's ever going to give me something like this. No one is ever. And I wish I could think of his freaking name, but if you look it up, you will know what I'm talking about. But it's like, that's the cool part. You get to do something awesome and show off your chops, gives your agent manager something more to say. It's the material. To me, that's the thing. And then if it does win some awards, bonus. If it plays at a bunch of film festivals, bonus. But you also get to do that work on camera that you're not getting to do anywhere else.
I just want to quickly add, I wouldn't say it if it didn't happen to me, because I've had, directors and writers come to me with larger projects, not shorts. One of the first things that happens in that process is either they'll say, well, this person's playing this role and it's somebody who did a part for them when they were up and coming, or I get a short list of, let's make sure we get these people on tape. And it's people they've worked with previously, and you want to be on that list. And that is a list that no rep can get you on. That's just you investing.
Yeah. And I would also say too, I hear a lot from actors that will judge content based off of the format before they even seen audition sides, before they've even looked at who's producing or directing or casting. They're just like, I'm not doing a short film. I'm not doing commercials. I'm not doing a less than 99 seat theater. I'm not doing vertical, all those things. And I get it, because every genre or format, carries, pros and cons and stereotypes and what have you. But to say no before you even have an opportunity to say yes, to me just feels a little bit backwards. I don't say no when someone approaches me to do short film until I look at the script. Yeah. And then I decide, this isn't for me. Yeah. But if I were to just say no to any job that comes by, I've been very fortunate. I've cast animation and scripted podcast and short films and features and TV. I've been able to run the gamut, and it's such a blessing and a joy. And then I have some colleagues that once they figured out what niche they wanted to carve out, then would stick to it. But as actors, until you get to a point in your career where it's, okay for you to just be like, I'm going to say yes to whatever I want, and they'll come to me. If you're still chasing jobs, get the audition, then decide, and just don't judge things before you see what you got.
I'd also say that short film is in some ways the truest form of, or maybe not the truest, but a true form of storytelling.
It's a very distilled form of storytelling.
Yeah, it's something that is accessible, right? I don't mean accessible like you can turn on the TV and put it on.
Accessible to create.
Yeah, if your audience is seeing it, it can easily be absorbed. And so if you are a storyteller in its purest form, it's an amazing creative outlet to tell stories as both a filmmaker and a performer.
I want to add, Short films. I mean, when you do the reels, like when we watch reels on IMDb or something, you don't know if it's short films. Number one, and I want to thank the actors for coming in here. Like as an actor myself, I think like we actors do the hardest work to bring the characters to life and the courage and many self tapes. I see many self tape people don't get booked, but some people get booked. I really like sometimes I don't feel like I have like I gotta email the people, but you don't, But like it's like you guys said, but it goes to my short list. I had the commercial last week, and I had one day to cast it, and I've done it like I think before I went to sleep, I've texted almost 200 people on my short list, and they're all Middle Eastern.
How short is this list?
Like,
11,000.
what's your long list?
I love your short list.
But it's
Sounds very
I
long.
have kids short list too, which is great.
But it's so true, right?
I got it
That
all.
work begets work. And
Yeah.
so I get asked so many times, how do I get an agent? How do I get a manager? How do I get jobs? And the answer
Like I have
is
a fun
be in
story, like a
things.
quick story about the short film. So I was casting another Chapman thesis, and it's a comedy. It is a straight up comedy. And I get this audition from a kid. He's like 17, 18, kid to me, and not a single funny bone, but phenomenal actor. I was like blown away. At the same time, I was up for an indie drama. And I took his audition. I sent to the producer and I was like, whether or not you end up working with me, you need to see this kid for this role. Because he cannot land a joke, but he is very dramatic. And he is the lead of Rosemead.
Wow.
I got an email from the producer like the next year. They ended up having to go with a New York casting director when they changed from LA to New York. And she reached out and she was like, hey, we really love Lawrence. He got the part.
I got a quick one.
We'll do one more quick one, and then
Yeah.
I have to do my final comment.
I cast a dear friend in an very experimental short film. And Damien Chazelle's wife, who's a wonderful actress, happened to also be in this experimental short. And fast forward a year after the short comes out, my friend texts me and he says, hey, I just got an audition for Babylon through Olivia. He booked Babylon, big role, great role. And he's like, listen, had I not agreed to come on to do that short, this opportunity would have never presented itself for me. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not just about actor to director, right? It's actor to actor and actor to cinematographer and actor to producer. So there's a million connections that can be made on any project that you walk onto. And I'm not saying take every project that comes your way, but yeah, there's so much opportunity that can come from doing a short film.
So then to wrap up, what I think a lot of people always ask, and actors especially when they come into contact with casting want to know is, what's the best way to stay in touch with you, to approach you, to let you know what I'm up to, that I'm available, that I'm considering these projects? What is a non-annoying, appropriate way to be on your radar?
Carrier pigeon.
Allie's tough. I always make an agreement that I always say, you're welcome to email me. But our agreement is, if you email me, don't email me if your feelings will be hurt if I don't respond, because I make no agreement to respond. But I do read everything. I do look at emails, and I do look at stuff, and I love knowing that great things are happening. I just can't simply respond to all of them. But I also, that's one thing we have control over. There's so little we have control over. And nowadays it's so much harder to meet people. Another thing I always say is, I'm the president of Casting Society Cares, and we do monthly volunteer events with casting, and it's open to the community at large. So if you're ever interested in volunteering and coming out and meeting other people that way, you can also email volunteers@castingsociety.com, because I'm organizing them, and it's a great way. It's how I've met so many people in casting as well. And that, from the other element or the other option is Industry Inbox is also a great resource. If you have never checked it out, I receive nothing for this. It's not paid endorsement, but it is a great resource. I love mail and love getting postcards, and Industry Inbox is a great way to send it out to people. All the information and your reels and all that.
I love a personal connection to a character. So if you hear I'm casting something and we're casting someone who is in the military or is a, doctor or whatever, and you have that personal experience, it's always very interesting to me to connect with actors that it doesn't have to be that you have worked as a doctor or you were in the military, but some personal connection to the story or to the character, letting me know why you're drawn to a specific project and why you want to be considered. That is always a grabber for me. And even if we've cast the role or I don't end up bringing you in for it, it's something that I remember. It's a point of connection. Really, I'm looking to connect with you as actors. So if there is a point of connection, I'd love to hear it.
I'm also in the camp. I read everything, but I do not have the bandwidth and way too much anxiety to respond. I can't, because I'll feel like I'll say thank you and then they'll respond back and then I'm like, what have I done?
Same.
Yeah. So when it's a general update, I don't mind if it's via IG or email. Like, I'll read it. I'll do links. I sometimes will go to plays or table readings that I get or film festivals that I get, hey, this is happening. And if I'm free and I'm not bone tired, I was like, yeah, sure. The one thing I would ask, I really hate being added to mailing lists without approval. I'd rather just get a personal one than get added because my email's out there. And if you guys become real estate agents, please don't add me to those mailing lists because I get a lot of those too.
I got one from an agent recently. Sorry, not to start drama.
Go on.
Sorry. Since I'm speaking, I am the same as all of them. I used to be like, I'll respond to your emails when I was young and stupid. Sometimes I will, most of the time I won't. And just like you put so beautifully, if there's something relevant that I'm working on and you feel particularly inspired, I love hearing about that. And that's
but
why
in
we
your
do
subject head, say that it's a pitch for a current project, because sometimes that's buried in there and I don't read it until I'm done casting.
Absolutely. Name of the project for sure. Like, hey, Allie, happy spring. That's not one I'm prioritizing reading. Like, I'm not going to read it that day when I get it. You know what I mean? So yeah, email for sure for me. My email's not a secret. I also have a general submissions form on my website.
You can join MiddleEasternActors.com or Arab American Casting. It has an app. It has a messaging. You can has like a little social media to it. It's on Wix and Spaces. You can DM me. You can do all that stuff. But if we working together, I want you to text me, even if you have a question for the characters. Because I do go break down in my brain every character. I know every objective of the characters. So I tell people, they're surprised when they message them back, boom, this is why this is amazing. But if you text me when we're working together instead of on my email, it's really nice because I can just kind of even an hour later I can respond exactly. It is getting harder. Because I own Arab American Casting, and I do want in our company, I want to feature people's headshot every day. That was a thing of how this social media thing popped out. It's tough to do that because I'm very picky how I do it, and you don't feature the name and stuff. But it gets the business, and people loves it. The community loves to see themselves. Every day they see the new pictures of one person from the community, they get so excited. I'm I have a whole list of people waiting to be on there. It's exciting for me. Also, it's getting tougher, but I have 2 dogs to walk. I have to do something.
Please don't text me.
You see me like going like this, and you know what my neighbor told me? This is how you drive. I'm like, well, I wish they drive.
Well, sure.
You know, it'd be fun.
Well, it seems like
more
the thesis of this panel in regards to casting short films and other is connection and finding a connection to the projects, to the people that you're working with. And I always find my answer to my own question is, if you come from a genuine place and you really just want to send an update, or you really have a question or a genuine connection, I love authenticity. I also probably will not respond unless it's something that I need immediately. But as long as you come from a genuine place where you're not expecting anything, you just want to share something, that seems like kind of what everyone was talking about with everything that they respond to in regards to the creative process of casting. So thank you all for coming to the panel. Thank you for
Thank you, guys.
participating. Congratulations to our nominees.